Hey everyone, it's Irene from Bay Wellness Coaching. This month of May is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, so I'm really excited to share something with Livvie. Livvie is a really awesome client of mine who's agreed to come on my channel and share a little bit about their experience with top surgery. So the LGBT community is super diverse, and I wanted to highlight some of those Asian American experiences within the community. So I'm going to be interviewing them about their surgery. They actually just had their surgery this week. So this is going to be part one of a two-part video. So this one is like right after the surgery, what are your thoughts? And then we're going to do another video together in the future, just kind of about their experience after some time has passed. So to start off, I guess maybe you can tell me a little bit more about what made you decide you wanted to get top surgery.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been sort of thinking about it on and off for the past maybe 8 years or so, where I just wasn't feeling super comfortable with my body and my chest, and it was more me kind of trying to figure out my gender, where I fit on the spectrum. And at first I wasn't sure if it was going to be worth the recovery time and going through a big surgery. And another thing that really freaked me out was that I'd never had general anesthesia before. I would have to go through that for the surgery. But then over time, I just sort of started getting, I guess, a little more dysphoric and more getting more involved in the LGBT community, and seeing other people who have had surgeries and been really happy, and kind of envisioning myself going through the same thing and feeling really excited about it. And over time sort of got more excited about that, and then more fed up with not feeling comfortable with my own body or weird with my own body. And also decided just maybe I should talk to a therapist to talk through my thoughts. And then eventually it was sort of just like I decided to go for it and thought that it was and just kind of knew that it was the right choice for me. And I'm super happy right now, just 3 days out.
Yeah, wow, 3 days ago. So this is super, super recent. For those of you watching, right after this video is being made, we're currently going through a global pandemic with coronavirus, and that's definitely made life different for so many people. Were there any specific challenges you faced during the surgery process, maybe things related to the ongoing pandemic?
Yeah, so well, I guess related to the pandemic, there was a lot of uncertainty around whether I would be able to have the surgery as scheduled. And really it was already a long process, and I was kind of getting antsy about like just having to wait, because I started this process. Well, I think I actually started going to a therapist maybe around November of 2018 or something, and now it's May 2020. And then found my surgeon, I think around July of last year. And then from there, I didn't really have my first consultation until November. So that was another 3 months waiting, weeks for insurance approval. And then from there, another 5 months until I had the surgery date. So I had already waited nearly a year or over a year, depending on when you count from when it started. And I was already like really anxious to get going, because it sort of felt like, oh, well, this top surgery is a big thing. In some ways, I felt like my life was on hold until I could get the surgery and like really come into myself. So there was some anxiety in terms of being able to plan when everything is so uncertain. I had some concerns about how safe it would kind of be going into a doctor's office, hospital, and being able to find some people who would be able to like give me a ride to and from the hospital during a pandemic where we're trying to social distance, and whether the place would even be open. But it turned out that, and also trying not to get sick, I guess, because I wouldn't want to spread the virus if I were to have it, and wouldn't want to have a surgery if I were sick either, just for my own health. So trying to just stay healthy and get to the point where I could have surgery was a really big thing. Aside from the pandemic, I guess part of it was also just figuring out how to communicate that to friends and family and work that I was going to have surgery and how much I would disclose, and navigating that when it's sort of something that is generally hard for me to talk about in general, but then also kind of something that I don't expect a lot of people in my life to necessarily understand or have a lot of experience with or knowledge of.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a really big life change. And I think even being Asian kind of plays into it. It's not something that's spoken a lot about in our community. Did you feel like what kind of resources did you look into during this whole process? Like, did you talk to anyone else? Like, kind of what helped you through the process of deciding and the process of even opening up to other people about it?
So I think that there were a lot of sources that I just found randomly on the internet, especially on YouTube, of trans and non-binary people talking about their experiences. And I know that, well, you, Irene, also connected me with some people who had top surgery that I was able to ask questions to, which helped a lot, just because really before this recent year, I would say, I actually wasn't super connected to the queer community at all, didn't know a lot of queer people, and especially not people who had gone through top surgery. So I think just getting more connected with the community helped a lot, just in terms of having support, and even I guess knowing that I have friends and support and other communities even outside the queer community was just helpful too, because I don't know, I guess I find it easier to come out to my friends compared to family, and to talk about this with them, just because I guess there are cultural and generational and religious and belief system differences between these two groups of people in my life. So just being able to kind of talk through that and talk to a therapist about it as well, and just gain general more self-confidence and self-assuredness, and being able to talk about my feelings and my experiences helped a lot.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And I mean, now that you're already done with the surgery, kind of what was your recovery process like? What was your understanding of the recovery process before going into it? Has it kind of met your expectations of what you were expecting the recovery to be like, or has it been more difficult? Has it been easier than you thought? Like, how's that been going?
Yeah, so, well, I think that it's actually been somewhat easier than I thought it would be. I knew that I would likely have drains. I'd likely have trouble doing some things that I normally would be doing pretty easily, like carrying things, picking things up, like opening and closing things, getting up. So that's been an adjustment. I know that I'm supposed to limit my activity for a certain number of weeks, and before surgery, I was really heavily working out, like weightlifting and climbing, although actually during the pandemic, that's sort of been put on hold somewhat. So I guess that's a little bit less of a change compared to during normal times, which maybe has helped a little bit. So I think I just sort of imagine that recovery is really different for each individual person, and it'll be harder or easier depending on various factors. So I didn't really have any specific expectations for how I would handle recovery. But I feel very fortunate that it's been pretty good. Like, I haven't really needed pain meds since I left surgery. And I feel like I'm doing pretty well, and everything's pretty manageable. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. You haven't had to use any pain medication. You mentioned this is your first time going under general anesthesia. Do you have any experience you want to share? Like, did they count down and then they're like counting down from 10, 10, 9, and then you're like, oh, I'm awake. Like, what just happened? Where am I?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember a lot of it. I don't even remember really any counting down. I think the last thing I remember was they were asking if it's okay for them to strap me down to the table. And then I said, yep, that's good. And then I remember like a lot of people kind of coming at me. And then after that, I was just waking up in the recovery room. And I think they were giving me apple juice and then asked if I wanted some goldfish pretzels, and I think I asked if there was cheese because I'm vegan, and then they said no, but I didn't want the pretzels anyway because I was okay. And then yeah, but it was pretty smooth. And I have heard that general anesthesia can have other side effects like nausea, constipation, which the nausea part I haven't experienced so much yet, maybe the constipation a little bit, but all manageable. And I've had lots of time to rest and stuff. So it's been good. Not as a big deal as I was making it out to be. I guess it was more the unknown of what it would be like.
That's such a relief to hear. I'm like really glad that the recovery has been going well. And you mentioned with me before that you were able to take time off work. So that's really good. Like, I know it could be hard for some people if they're not able to take time off work. For context,
Yeah.
Livvie is a really badass software engineer who also has a law degree and is a super sharp, super awesome person. So that's super good. I guess in terms of like talking about company benefits and things like that, like how did the cost process work for you? Like, did you have to contact insurance a lot before you had the surgery? Like, how did that kind of play out?
Yeah, so the cost process was pretty straightforward for me just because I don't think this is like this for everyone, but my surgeon was Dr. Scott Mosser in San Francisco, and they actually have a team of people that reach out to insurance for you. So basically what I had to provide was a letter from a therapist and some other medical information. And I'm lucky to have pretty good medical insurance that will cover the surgery. So I sent that over to their insurance advocates, and then they communicated with insurance mostly on my behalf. And it was mostly just a lot of waiting for approvals and things to go through that took maybe about 6 weeks to 2 months to get the approval. But then after that, what I ended up paying out of pocket so far, but this could have some extra costs or maybe fewer costs that I need to still check out and call up insurance about. But I paid $1,500 to my surgeon and $1,500 to the surgery center.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Like, for the cost of feeling comfortable in your own body, like that's like really important, you know, and then it kind of varies for some people. For people who are kind of new, like gender identity is something that can be very flexible. Like, some people are very like solid on what they believe their gender identity is. Some people don't have as much dysphoria, some people have more or less. So, I mean, it's kind of a spectrum of how you feel and how you identify in terms of your gender.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, I mean, at this moment, it can change over time, but like, how do you kind of identify with your own gender?
Yes, for the most part, I feel kind of gender queer, gender neutral, but kind of more on the I'm a feminine guy rather than a woman end of the spectrum, I suppose. But I guess it's it's a little bit fluid and kind of hard for me to put a set label on, I think. I kind of just feel like me.
Yeah, and I feel you. Like, some people find a lot of power in the labels, and some people don't really enjoy being put into a box. How they want to express themselves or how they just feel about themselves in general. So I think that's awesome. Like, as long as you're comfortable with who you are, then I think that's the most important. Let me connect my headset really quickly. Accidentally knocked it off. um, but yeah, I think, you know, things can change over time. So
Yeah.
for people who are watching, like if you currently identify one way and then you end up deciding you identify another way, like don't let people make you feel bad because you are still trying to figure it all out, especially people who are younger or even people who come out later in life. Like it's okay to change, and it's a very fluid thing, and I believe like it's a spectrum, and if you don't even believe it's a spectrum and you're somewhere not even on the list of words we even have to use to define gender at this time, then that's great too. I guess kind of wrapping up, do you feel like there's anything that you've learned through this process, whether it was like kind of like pre-surgery, like useful things, or how are you just feeling overall?
I guess overall, I'm feeling really happy. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by the support I've received, and I know that I'm very fortunate to have that support. Not a lot of people have that. But I think that so far it's been, it's been really good. Wait to see what comes. I know that sometimes, like I've heard that there are things that could happen like with post-op depression, or just like overall feeling tired, or some things or side effects that could happen later on. So just looking out for that. I think that some things that are important are just to be prepared, make sure that you're comfortable with your surgeon, and having a like good idea of generally what you want to get out of it and your goals, which my surgeon talked to me about a few conversations that we've had leading up to the surgery.
Speaking of, how many appointments did you have with your surgeon before you actually had the exact surgery? Because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, like, how many appointments do I need to go to and stuff like that.
So I ended up having, I think, 2 phone consultations and 1 in-person consultation before surgery. So it wasn't actually a whole lot. And so the first phone consultation was before even getting the insurance approval and scheduling the surgery, which was back in November. And then that was where Dr. Mosser basically asked about what my goals were, like what I wanted my chest to look like. Do I want it to generally look like just a cis male chest? Do I want it to look like a more non-binary type chest? Which I guess I will also mention that like one thing about Dr. Mosser is that he is very experienced with non-binary patients, and is like open to doing things that are that make a chest maybe look more non-binary. And some other surgeons may also have that similar experience, but some surgeons might also be more used to traditional transgender men wanting to get top surgery. So I thought that was also something that I looked for in terms of picking a surgeon.
Mm-hmm. And where did you go to find the surgeons that you decided to like look into?
Yeah, I think I had seen Dr. Mosser's name around. I also just kind of looked. So there were some YouTubers, for example, that I follow who have gotten top surgery. I kind of looked at who their surgeons were, but they were out of state, and I did want someone who was in state and close by, just so that it would, I didn't really want to travel before and after surgery, because I thought that would make things more inconvenient. So I wanted something in Northern California. And I think I found some other names from some UC's trans resource page online. And there also is like a couple top surgery support groups on Facebook that I looked at. And also randomly, this was maybe less for finding my surgeon, but more about feeling confident in my choice, was that I went to VidCon last year, and I spoke to someone who had done, had filmed educational videos for Dr. Mosser, where they took live footage of top surgery and the different types of top surgery to put on his YouTube channel. which you can check out if you're curious and aren't too squeamish. And they mentioned that Dr. Moser had some pretty good results, so that sort of helped with my confidence level in picking him.
Yeah, I mean, that's so good to hear. Seems like, recovery's going well. You had a pretty good idea going into it. It's turned out a little bit better than you thought. So this is all really awesome. I'm excited to check back in and do like part 2 of our interview, see like kind of the progress. I think it'll be awesome for people to hear your experience, like how it's been after you've had some time to recover. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Thanks so much, Livvie, for being here. If you still want to look for resources, sounds like there's a ton of awesome resources online, whether it's like Facebook groups, like asking around, finding like queer resource pages, whether it's like through a university or through even these like hospitals, websites, and things like that. So, okay. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Again, I'm Irene from Bay Wellness Coaching. Thank you again, Livvie, for being on our channel here today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them below and check out our part 2 video that will be released in the future. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Have a good rest of your day. Take care, everyone.
See ya.
All right, so here we're going to be talking, and Livvie is actually going to show us drains from their top surgery. So my understanding of drains is that it's this thing that you will kind of insert to make sure fluid does not build up underneath your skin. So I actually have not seen them, so I would love if you're comfortable to show us kind of your experience so far.
So yeah, that's pretty much right. I got a double incision top surgery, so that's where there are incisions that go kind of all the way below. So I don't have any like new incisions where the drains were inserted in, but I'll show you right now how it works. So basically, there's some fluid in here now, but the tube attaches to, is like inside where the incisions already were. And this is a binder to kind of just keep everything in. And every so often, I will empty these out and measure how much fluid is coming out. And I squeeze it before I close it so that it provides some suction, and then just over the course of the day, the fluid will just be draining out. And it is safety pinned to my binder currently. But there are other techniques like drain pockets and things that people do so that they can walk around with drains on. But it's actually not as bad as I thought it would be. It's not always needed for double incision is my understanding, but I opted to have them because in general it's just a more reliable recovery to make sure that the swelling is manageable and everything.
Yeah, and does the doctor actually give you the container to like measure how much fluid comes out? Like, do you have a little more information about that process?
Yeah, those came with me after surgery. So I kind of woke up with them in, and before the surgery, they told me how to empty them and measure everything. And then they gave me this little, this drain log sheet so I can write down how much fluid I measured and whenever I empty it.
Wow, that's really handy. I guess you even have a little bit of additional homework you have to do to make sure everything's going well. And when's your next appointment to check in on it?
It is on Monday, so that's 6 days post-op. So I think that is when we take the bindings and drains out, and we'll have a chest reveal.
Wow, I'm excited. Can't wait to kind of follow up with you in the future. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, totally.
Take care.
Take care.